After 2 years in a foreign war, I thought the first thing I'd see would be my wife's smile and my little boy's arms reaching out for me. But then my phone buzzed. The only thing waiting for me was a cold message. Don't come home. Lucas doesn't want to see you either. It's over. I froze, right there in the middle of the airport. Around me, families were laughing and crying in reunion. A young wife running into her husband's arms. A little boy screaming, "Daddy!" as he sprinted across the floor. I stood still, watching them. It felt like someone drove a fist straight through my chest, leaving nothing but emptiness. For 2 years, I'd counted every single day. Every night on the battlefield, I held on to Sarah and Lucas in my mind, just to keep breathing. And now, they're telling me not to come back. My phone buzzed again, this time an email. Divorce papers. Please do not contact directly. All communication must go through our office. I kept reading it, again and again. Every word felt like shards of glass, cutting deeper and deeper. I wasn't afraid of dying out there, but right now, for the first time, I felt truly alone. Had I left them for too long? Do I deserve this? I took a deep breath. My hand clenched the phone so tight, my knuckles turned white. And then, I heard my old commander's voice in my head. A soldier doesn't break at bad news. He assesses. He strikes back. He wins. I drew another breath, pushed the rage and pain deep down, where no one could see it. If this is a battle, then I'll fight. Not to win back the woman who turned her back on me, but to protect the little boy I swore I'd love. Until my very last breath. And 48 hours later, I uncovered a truth. One even more brutal than the battlefield I'd just walked away from. My name is Ethan Carter. I'm 38, a U.S. Navy sailor, a man who once thought he was ready for every kind of pain life could throw at him, except this one. Sarah and I met in the fall of 2010. She was a medical intern at the military hospital where I was recovering from a shoulder injury. The first time I saw her, I was drawn in. Those blue eyes of hers carried a softness I'd never seen in anyone before. We fell fast, married just 11 months after our first date. Friends called me reckless, but back then, I was sure of one thing. Sarah was the home I'd been searching for, a place where a lonely man like me could finally belong. The early years of our marriage were peaceful. When I got assigned to a base in Florida, we bought a small house near the ocean. I still remember those evenings on the porch, Sarah resting her head on my shoulder, her voice a soft whisper. "You'll always come back to me and Lucas, right?" I'd squeeze her hand and say, "I promise. No matter where I am, I'll find my way home." Lucas was born in 2015, a little boy I never thought I deserved. He had his mother's sparkling blue eyes and a smile like sunlight. But the deployment started getting longer. First 3 months, then 6, and finally, 2 endless years. I remember the night before I shipped out. Sarah stood by Lucas's crib, humming a lullaby to him. The room was dim, the soft yellow light wrapped around her face. But when I stepped in, she fell silent. Her eyes met mine, and for a moment I felt like a stranger in my own home. I asked softly, "Are you okay?" She forced a smile. "Yeah, don't worry. I'll take good care of him." Back then, I didn't realize how much meaning was hidden in those words. Her mother, Judith, never liked me. She believed Sarah deserved a man who stayed close to home, someone steady, not a husband who disappeared to places where one explosion could turn her into a widow. Once, I overheard Judith telling Sarah, "If he won't come home, you'll have to choose family or a man who's never there. You can't keep living like a young widow with a husband who's still breathing." Sarah said nothing, and I'll never forget the look in her eyes that day, a storm of love and quiet pain. I thought I could prove I was doing this for us, that I was building a better future for our family. But maybe I was wrong. I didn't know. Those words would become a prophecy. The day I lost everything. Every time I left home, I told myself, distance couldn't kill love. I sent letters, little gifts. And on those rare calls back home, I tried to show Sarah and Lucas that I was still here, still a husband, still a father, even from across the ocean. But as time went on, our calls got shorter, colder. I still remember the last one before I shipped out on that 2-year mission. Sarah picked up with red, tired eyes. "I'm so exhausted, Ethan. Lucas cries all night, and I'm here, trying to juggle everything alone. You know, sometimes it feels like I'm a single mom." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. I wanted to hold her, but the cold screen just reflected the face of a helpless soldier. "I'm sorry, Sarah. Just this one last time. When this mission ends, I promise, I'll be home for good. No more leaving." She didn't answer right away. There was a long, heavy silence, before she forced a weak smile. "How many times have I heard that before, Ethan? Looking back, maybe I should have seen it." Sarah laughed less. Her messages grew short, distant. One night, I tried video calling Lucas. He glanced at me on the screen, mumbled, "Hi, Dad," then turned away to play with his new toy. I sat there, staring at the phone, unable to move. Then one night, I saw a notification on social media. Sarah had been tagged in a photo at a cafe. The post was from Mark, an old classmate of hers. They were smiling, big, bright smiles. Too bright, too close. I told myself, maybe they're just friends. But deep down, a chill crept into my chest. 2 weeks before my return, I called Sarah with excitement. "I'm coming home earlier than planned, Sarah. I can't wait to see you and Lucas." She picked up. Her voice rushed, nervous. "Ethan, you shouldn't be calling right now. I'm busy." And then I heard it, a man's voice in the background. "Who's that?" Sarah's tone tightened. "Just a coworker. Don't worry." Before I could ask more, she hung up. I stared at my phone, at our old wallpaper. A photo of the 3 of us on Pensacola Beach last summer. But when the screen lit up, I froze. Sarah had changed it. Now it was just a lavender field, purple. No Lucas, no me. I tried to shake it off, told myself she was just tired. But in the pit of my stomach, a cold voice whispered, "What else has she kept from you?" The day I landed at the airport, my heart pounded like it did the first time I stepped onto a battlefield. But there was no tight hug from my wife, no little voice yelling, "Daddy!" All I got was a message. "Don't come home. Lucas doesn't want to see you either. It's over." And now, standing in a sea of families reuniting through tears and laughter, I feel like a shadow. I don't know when or how. I became a stranger in my own family. But if this is a battle, then I'll fight. Not for the woman who turned her back on me, but for the boy I swore to love. Until my very last breath. I don't remember how long I stood there at the airport. People rushed past me, their arms full of flowers, gifts, and reunions. A young soldier sobbed like a child as his wife and kids ran into his arms. I watched them, and felt my chest tighten, like an invisible hand was squeezing the life out of me. I pulled out my phone again, stared at Sarah's cold, final message. "Don't come home. Lucas doesn't want to see you either. It's over. It's over." A few hours later, I booked a domestic flight back to Georgia, the place we once called home. I didn't sleep the whole way. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Sarah standing by Lucas's crib. That look in her eyes. It still haunts me. I kept asking myself, what did I do wrong? Or was my only mistake loving my family the way a soldier does, a way they never asked for? I rented a car and drove down the quiet street where our little white house stood. When I stopped in front of it, my heart pounded like a drum. The house looked different. The little decorations on the porch were gone. The tiny shoes Lucas used to leave by the steps, gone too. And parked in front of the house, a sleek black SUV I'd never seen before. I didn't get out right away. I sat there watching. After a while, the door opened. Sarah stepped out, holding Lucas's hand. My breath caught in my throat. Lucas looked taller, his hair a little longer. But what tore me apart was his tiny hand, gripping tightly onto another man's. The man was tall, broad-shouldered, dressed sharp in a crisp white shirt. Lucas looked up at him and smiled. A smile I thought only I could bring to my son's face. And then I heard it. "Dad, I'm hungry." Lucas just called him Dad. My phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. I answered. "Ethan, it's Judith." I recognized my mother-in-law's voice instantly. "Don't look for Sarah anymore. She's chosen peace. If you've got any pride left, go back to your base and leave them alone." I took a deep breath, fighting to keep my voice steady. "Lucas, he's my son. You have no right to take him away from me." Judith let out a cold laugh. "You really think he still remembers you? He's already calling someone else Dad, Ethan." I felt fire rush to my head. My hands were trembling, but my voice stayed calm. "I've stayed silent long enough. But you and Sarah, you won't be able to hide the truth forever." I watched as the black SUV drove away, carrying Sarah, Lucas, and the stranger. Right then, I grabbed my phone. I scrolled to my contacts and called Jake, an old friend and a cybersecurity specialist. "Jake, I need your help. There's a guy, Mark, or someone else, who's wormed his way into my family. I want to know who he is, when it started, and every dirty little secret he's hiding." Jake paused for a moment, then answered firmly, "I get it. Send me everything you've got. We'll rip his mask off." I hung up, gripped the steering wheel tight. If this is a battle, then I'm ready for war. I sat still in the car for a few more minutes, my eyes locked on that sleek black SUV disappearing down the street. The image of Lucas looking up, calling him Dad, kept replaying in my head, like a broken tape stuck on the same scene. I couldn't tell what burned more, Sarah's betrayal, or the thought of my own son seeing another man as his father. 30 minutes later, my phone buzzed. It was Jake. I found something on Mark. His voice was low, careful, like he was picking his words. "Ethan, are you sure you want to hear this?" "Say it," I replied, my tone ice cold. "Mark, he used to be your best friend in college, right?" I froze. A chill shot down my spine. "What? Are you talking about Mark Evans?" "Yeah, it's him." I closed my eyes. My hand clenched the phone so tight, my knuckles went numb. Mark. The man who borrowed 50 grand from me 6 years ago when he went bankrupt. The man I once called brother. Now he's holding my son's hand, letting my boy call him Dad. Jake's voice cut through my thoughts. The first messages between Sarah and Mark date back about 11 months. She saved his number under the name Emily PTA. I let out a dry, bitter laugh. PTA, the Parent-Teacher Association. Sarah thought she was clever, but not clever enough to outsmart me. And Jake. "Ethan, there's something else. I found a booking for 3 plane tickets to Toronto, Canada. 2 adults, 1 child. The flight leaves this weekend." It felt like someone had sucked all the air out of my lungs. "They're planning to take Lucas out of the country." Jake's voice dropped. "You need to move fast. If they leave, it'll be a hell of a lot harder to bring him back." I stared out the window. The house, the one that once echoed with Lucas's laughter, now felt cold, almost haunted. The blue porch paint was faded, the flower pots Sarah used to fuss over. Nothing but cracked, dry soil now. I fought to protect my country, but I couldn't protect my home. "Jake, track every single transaction Sarah and Mark make. If they move money, if they book anything else, I want to know before they can run." "Got it, Ethan. But you need to brace yourself. If this goes to court, they'll throw everything they can to strip you of custody. I don't care what Sarah wants, but my son, he can't grow up believing that man is his father." As I spoke with Jake, a new email popped up on my phone, regarding custody of Lucas Mitchell. My heart pounded as I opened it. "Our client, Mrs. Sarah Mitchell, requests full custody of Lucas. She has provided evidence that you were absent for most of Lucas's childhood, and that your return would cause emotional instability for the child." I sat there in silence. The world spun around me. Sarah doesn't just want to leave me. She wants to erase me from my son's life. I drove away from the quiet street that used to be my home. Outside, the trees swayed in the night wind, their bare branches looking brittle and lifeless, just like my heart right now. My hands trembled on the steering wheel, knuckles white from how tightly I was gripping it. The image of Lucas looking up at Mark, calling him Dad, kept looping in my head like a broken tape. I used to think, if I ever died on the battlefield, at least my son would grow up with memories of a father who sacrificed everything. But now, maybe all he'll remember is another man, the one who stole it all. What the hell do I do now? Storm into that house and take my boy back? Or go to court and let them drag my name through the mud, just like Sarah did? Deep down, a primal instinct was screaming at me to strike back, to take back everything, no matter the cost. But I knew, if I lost control, I'd lose everything. The image of Lucas, his tiny hands gripping my fingers as he took his first steps, clung to my mind like a ghost. I asked myself, if I disappeared today, would my son even remember me? Or would he only remember Mark's steady hand? Marty, you're a soldier. But this isn't a battlefield. This is family. I whispered those words to myself, even as it felt like 1,000 blades were cutting through my chest. My phone buzzed. Jake again. Ethan, I found something. And it's not pretty. Say it, I answered, my voice cold as ice. 3 months ago, Mark filed for permanent residency in Canada. For all 3 of them, him, Sarah, and Lucas. But here's the thing. In the application, he listed Lucas as his biological son. I slammed my hand on the steering wheel. The sound echoed like a gunshot inside the car. What the hell? He thinks he's Lucas's father. It might just be a legal move to make paperwork easier. Or... Jake hesitated. Or what? I growled. Or Sarah told him that Lucas is actually his son. I shut my eyes. A wave of dizziness washed over me. Why, Sarah? How could you do this to me? Memories hit me like a punch to the gut. The first time Sarah nervously placed Lucas in my arms. Her smile. The tears on her face that day. I had sworn to protect this family with my life. Now it was all... gone. I couldn't sit still anymore. I had to see them. I had to know the truth. That night, I drove back to the neighborhood, parked 2 blocks away, killed the headlights, and I waited, watching in silence. Around 7 p.m., I saw them come out, Sarah and Mark, walking with Lucas. My boy ran ahead laughing, so carefree. Sarah held Mark's arm, leaned her head gently on his shoulder. That gesture, I thought it was ours. As they got into the car, Lucas suddenly turned his head. His blue eyes glanced in my direction, at the car hidden in the shadows. My heart stopped. My breath caught in my chest. Did he recognize me? But then... Lucas turned away and gripped Mark's hand tight. My phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number. You should go back to the battlefield, Ethan. This isn't your place anymore. I froze. My throat felt dry as sand. Sarah. She knows I'm here. I watched her beside Mark. Her eyes now cold, so different from the woman who once clung to me, crying in the rain the night I left for war. I was a fool. She's not the trembling wife who sent me off to the battlefield anymore. She's colder, sharper, more calculating than I ever imagined. I can't just sit here and watch. Tomorrow, I'll see Sarah. The next morning, I parked across the street from the cafe where Sarah and I had our first date. The glass window reflected a man with hollow eyes, exhausted and worn. For a second, I barely recognized him as me. My breathing was slow, but heavy. My hands trembled slightly on the wheel. Inside, a quiet fire burned. Today, I'll face her, not as a husband, but as a father fighting for his son. Sarah arrived right on time. She walked into the cafe, her steps quick, hair tied neatly back, her face calm, cold even, the same face I once loved so desperately. I stood as she approached the table. For just a moment, her eyes faltered, but then she pulled herself back into that calm, icy mask. Ethan, you shouldn't be here. Her voice was sharp. I didn't have a choice, Sarah. I answered, forcing my voice to stay steady. Part of me wanted to scream. to demand answers, to ask why she betrayed me. But I knew, if I let my emotions take over, I'd lose Lucas. "Listen to me," I said, my tone dropping lower. "I'm not here to win you back. I'm here to fight for my right to be a father." Sarah's hands tightened around her coffee cup. Her eyes flickered, just for a second. "Ethan." She sighed softly, then whispered, "Are you sure? Lucas is really your son?" The words hit me like an icy blade straight to the chest. "What?" I could barely believe what I was hearing. I'm not sure. Back then, everything was a mess. I made mistakes." Sarah's voice trailed off as her eyes dropped to the table. The air in the room felt thick, like it was closing in on me. My hands trembled violently as I gripped my coffee cup. 8 years. I had loved Lucas like he was my own breath. And now, Sarah threw this doubt at me? She looked up, her voice quiet but sharp as a knife. "Lucas deserves a real father. Not you, Ethan." My chest tightened. It felt like the world around me shattered into a heavy, suffocating darkness. Through the cafe window, I saw Lucas outside, riding on Mark's shoulders, laughing. That laugh, it used to belong to me. I stood slowly, my eyes locked on Sarah. "A new family? He's my best friend, Sarah. But he is not Lucas's father, and I will prove it." Sarah pressed her lips together, but her cold gaze wasn't as steady as before. I had already lost too much. This time, I wasn't going to let them take my son. I walked out of the cafe, pulled out my phone, and called Jake. "I need a DNA test on Lucas, whatever it takes." "Got it, I'll handle it." Jake replied instantly. I stared toward the old house, where Lucas laughed and played with Mark. If Lucas isn't my son, I'll lose not just my family, but my soul. I sat in the car, my eyes locked on the glowing screen. A message from Jake had just come in. "The DNA results are here. Are you ready?" My hands clenched so tight they trembled. My whole body felt heavy, like the slightest touch would shatter me. I took a deep breath and typed back, "Send it." Back in the military, I'd faced life or death moments. Bullets whizzing past my head, explosions shaking the ground beneath my feet. But what waited for me now felt far more terrifying than any battlefield. I once swore I'd protect my family with my life. But how do you protect a family when that very family turns its back on you? My phone buzzed. A PDF appeared on the screen. DNA analysis between Ethan Mitchell and Lucas Mitchell. Probability of biological relationship, 0%. I froze. A chill shot down my spine, spreading all the way to my fingertips. I'm not Lucas's biological father. I flung open the car door and stepped out, my legs nearly giving way beneath me. Out on the lawn, Lucas was playing with Mark. His laughter echoed, bright, pure, like a warm spring morning. That laugh. I once thought only I could bring it out of him. Mark lifted Lucas high, spinning him around. As Lucas's shirt rode up, I caught a glimpse of a small trinket clipped to his belt. A keychain shaped like a military insignia. The one I sent him from the battlefield last year. My chest tightened. At least, he's still holding on to a piece of me. 8 years. 8 years of sleepless nights. Working myself raw. Sending every penny back home. And in the end, I'm nothing. I wanted to scream. To rip Lucas out of Mark's arms. But then I stopped. This was my choice. Revenge or letting go. My phone rang. It was Jake. "Ethan, I need to tell you this. Mark already knew the DNA results." "How the hell does he know?" I growled, my voice hoarse. "He sent in a hair sample from Lucas 6 months ago. He's been preparing for this, ready to strike back the moment you came home." I gripped my phone so tight my knuckles turned white. "He's been planning everything. From the start." Jake hesitated, then added, "There's more. Mark told his lawyer that if you get near Lucas again, he'll file for an emergency relocation visa. If that happens, Lucas will vanish from the U.S. forever. I'm no longer his legal father, no longer a husband, and if I don't act now, I'll lose my son forever." I stood in front of the White House, the place that once overflowed with the laughter of Lucas and Sarah. Now it felt unfamiliar, like a warped memory from another life. My breathing quickened. In my hand, I gripped the small gift I'd once sent to Lucas. I'm not here to beg. I'm here to say my final words. As a father. Mark opened the door. He was tall, broad-shouldered, his eyes cold, his voice steady. You shouldn't be here, Ethan. Lucas already has a family. I stared straight into his eyes, my voice low but sharp. You stole my family, and now you want to take them out of this country. Sarah stepped out, Lucas clutching her hand. The boy looked at me, his blue eyes softening for a moment. Mom, why does he look familiar? Lucas asked innocently. A sharp pain stabbed through my chest. Ethan, leave, Sarah said softly, her eyes avoiding mine. You're not part of our lives anymore. I once promised Lucas that I'd be his hero. But now, I was just a stranger standing outside the door. Suddenly Lucas let go of his mother's hand and took a few steps toward me. Mister, who are you? My heart shattered. But then, Lucas pulled a small keychain from his pocket. A military insignia. He held it out to me. Is this yours? I kept it, because Mom said you once protected us. I knelt down, tears blurring my vision. Yes, I did protect you. And if I could, I'd protect you for the rest of my life. Mark stepped forward, pulling Lucas back, but I placed a hand gently on his shoulder. I don't need to be his biological father. I just want Lucas to know there was a man who loved him more than his own life. Sarah turned her face away. A single tear slipped down her cheek. Ethan, I'm sorry, she whispered through a sob. Mark pulled the door tighter, leaned down, and spoke in a low voice. Lucas chose me. You're just the man standing outside. I clenched my fists, but my eyes held nothing but emptiness. Mark's tone hardened. If you come near Lucas again, I'll take him out of the U.S. for good. I looked deep into his eyes, not with anger, but with a pain that ran to my core. You can take Lucas away, but you'll never take the love I have for him. The door slammed shut. I stood there alone, under a gray, heavy sky. Maybe. Love isn't always about holding on, but if there's even the smallest chance, I'll fight for my son, no matter the cost. I sat alone on a stone bench in a small park near the base. The winter sky hung gray and heavy above me. The last few leaves drifted to the ground at my feet. In the distance, a young father pushed his daughter on a swing. Her laughter rang out, clear, bright, and it tightened something deep in my chest. 3 weeks. 3 weeks since that door slammed shut in my face. 3 weeks since Lucas called me Mister instead of Dad. Every night, I'd lie on my bed, staring at the ceiling. My hand would reach for the empty space beside me, the place where Sarah used to sleep, and then I'd snap back to reality. The room was cold, empty, almost haunting. In the kitchen, a coffee cup sat on the table, stone cold. On the fridge, Lucas's old drawing still clung to the door, a messy little sketch of our family. The three of us holding hands. Now, that picture feels like a cruel joke, but I can't bring myself to take it down, because if I do, I'm afraid I'll lose Lucas forever. A boy about Lucas's age ran past me, his brown hair messy, clutching a toy car, just like the one I bought Lucas for his 5th birthday. My heart pounded. I stood up, took a few steps forward. Lucas, I called out softly. The boy turned, but those unfamiliar eyes told me I was wrong. I froze, then stepped back. A wave of hollow emptiness crashed over me, cold as ice. I used to believe that if you loved hard enough, a family would last forever. But love? Sometimes love isn't enough. I did everything I could, sent money, sent gifts, wrote letters from the battlefield, but none of it could fill the gap I left in Sarah and Lucas's hearts. Maybe Sarah was right. Maybe Lucas deserves a peaceful family, not a father who's always gone and comes home with scars from wars he'll never talk about. Jake sat across from me, a beer can in his hand, his eyes heavy with thought. Ethan, you've done everything you could. What's left to do, Jake? They've cut me off completely. Mark has the legal rights. Sarah has custody of Lucas." Jake stayed quiet. After a long moment, he spoke slowly. "Sometimes, you have to choose. Keep fighting and lose it all. Or step back and hold on to the good memories." His words fell into the silence between us, but in my head, they echoed like slow, distant gunfire. That night, I stared at my phone. The screen lit up with a photo of Lucas, smiling wide as I helped him fish last summer. I typed a message to Sarah. "Tell Lucas, I love him, even if I can't be there. And that keychain. Tell him I gave it to protect him, even if I'm not around anymore." There was no reply, but I hoped. One day, Lucas would read those words from his mother's phone. I set the phone down on the table, eyes drifting to the window. In my heart, a quiet voice whispered, "If one day you need me, son, I'll still be here, waiting." The morning in this little town felt unusually still. I sat by the cafe window, steam curling from my coffee cup, warming hands that had been cold for too many nights. It's been over a month since I sent my last message to Sarah. No reply, but the sharp pain I once felt has softened. Now it's been replaced by a quiet emptiness. A silence I can't tell is peace or surrender. I took a job at a garage nearby. Each morning, hands once steady on a rifle now gripped a wrench. The smell of oil and grease replaced the stench of gunpowder. At first, I'd dream of Lucas every night. He'd call me Dad, then run straight into Mark's arms. I'd wake up, heart pounding, eyes wet. But over time, the dreams came less often. One afternoon, I came home to my small apartment. On the floor, an envelope had been slipped under the door. I picked it up. The handwriting was familiar. "Ethan." My heart raced as I opened it. "Ethan, Lucas keeps asking why you don't come around anymore." I told him, "Maybe it's because you love him so much. You chose to stand somewhere he can't see you. I don't know if you want to see Lucas again. But if you do, we'll be at Lakeview Park this weekend. Lucas loves it there. Sarah." I set the letter down, my hands trembling. What should I do? Go see Lucas so he'll know I still love him? Or stay away and let him keep living his peaceful life with his new family? Every choice felt like another blade sinking into my chest. Sunday morning, I drove to Lakeview Park. From a distance, I saw Lucas riding his bike, Sarah and Mark walking close behind. His laughter rang out, bright and carefree. His messy brown hair danced in the wind. For a moment, Lucas stopped. He pulled a small keychain from his pocket, the military insignia. He spun it between his fingers and smiled. My chest tightened. I wanted to run to him, pull him into my arms, tell him I never stopped being his father. But I didn't. I stayed where I was, watching. I couldn't step forward, but at least I could see him one more time. On the drive home, I thought about what Jake once said. Sometimes, loving someone isn't about holding on. It's about letting them go. That night, I hung a replica of the keychain, just like the one Lucas still carries, on my rearview mirror. And I drove. The road stretched out endlessly ahead. "Lucas, even if you never call me Dad again, I'll always be the quiet protector watching over you." That night, the little town lay still under the weight of silence. I drove slowly along the road by the lake. Streetlights cast pale golden streaks across the glassy water. The military keychain swayed gently from my rearview mirror, moving with every soft hum of the engine. I reached out, let my fingers brush against its cold metal. It was cold, but it was the only thing left reminding me that somewhere out there, I was once a father. Some wounds never heal. You don't fix them. You just learn how to live with them. I used to believe love could save everything. I thought if I sacrificed enough, if I endured enough, I'd somehow hold my family together. But love isn't a battle you win through sheer will or patience. Sarah chose a different path. And Lucas? He was never my blood. But he was, for a time, my entire world. I no longer blame Sarah. I understand now. She was just a lonely woman, lost in the silence I left behind when I went to war. And Mark, whether I like it or not, he was there when I couldn't be. The only thing I can hope now is that he loves Lucas the way I once did. I don't know when the healing began. Maybe it started the first time I picked up a wrench instead of a rifle. Maybe it was when I sent that last message to Sarah and didn't wait for her reply. Or maybe it was when I stood at a distance watching Lucas laugh, and for the first time felt a quiet peace. I realized something. Sometimes, loving someone isn't about holding on. Loving them is letting them find peace, even if that peace doesn't include you. Sometimes, being a father isn't about blood. It's about having a heart big enough to love a child, even if he never calls you dad. And sometimes, the bravest way to love is to walk away, even when every part of you wants to stay. As the car rounded a corner near Lakeview Park, I caught a glimpse in my mirror. Lucas riding his bike, Sarah and Mark walking close behind. His laughter rang out, pure, unburdened. His messy brown hair danced in the wind. For a moment he stopped. He pulled the little keychain from his pocket, twirled it in his fingers, and smiled. My chest tightened. I wanted to run to him, pull him close, and tell him. I never stopped being his father. But I didn't. I rolled the window down. The night air swept in, carrying the scent of grass and the saltiness of the lake. The keychain on my mirror clinked gently against the glass. For the first time in months, I smiled. Lucas, you can't see me, but I can always see you. Sometimes, to love is to walk away, but leave your heart behind.